Do not attempt to repeat or reenact anything in this report. This video is strictly for education and entertainment purposes. 5D Prison, Outside of Time. Submitted to erowid.org on September 22, 2010 by Klaus. 3 hits of LSD ingested orally, 10 times salvia smoked, cannabis smoked. I'm writing this because I noticed there aren't many reports about this combination, and where they do exist, they tend to be negative or involve other substances. Mine wasn't necessarily positive or negative, just immensely weird and mind-blowing. One thing I have to say, though, is that this combo makes it very easy to panic, which I almost did, but more about that later. To start off, I'm a very experienced drug user, having been around the block with every major illegal drug and several most people have never heard of. My favorite is by far mescaline, though I've only tried it a few times. Barring that, I'd say LSD is my favorite, and I've taken it dozens of times. I've experienced a lot of crazy trips in my time, but never anything like this one. Before I begin, I should mention we had also been smoking a fair amount of marijuana throughout the evening. How much, I don't know. Also, I apologize for the length of this post. This is just a very difficult experience to describe. Anyway, here's what happened. I got hold of some pretty good acid from a friend. I bought 3 hits, and my friend Alan bought 2. Excited to trip, we went back to his place and dosed around sunset. While we waited to come up, we smoked some of Alan's weed and listened to Animal Collective. Nothing unusual for us at the time. We both noticed the acid took a while to kick in, and at first, we thought we might have been gypped. Of course, a few minutes later, Alice made herself known. I smiled in delight as that euphoric buzz unique to acid crept over me, opening all my senses. A lot more happened as we came up, but honestly, it was trivial compared to what would happen in the next few hours. We peaked around 3 hours in, and both remarked on the quality of the acid. During the following hours, we talked, listened to music, and drew some surprisingly good abstract art with oil pastels, which is saying something because I'm not much of a visual artist. It was an awesome trip. Enthralling is the word. Not one uncomfortable thought or feeling. Then, as we were both coming down around the 6-hour mark, sorry, I should have documented the times, but I didn't know anything this crazy would happen. I remembered the little bag of salvia I had from the day before. I pulled the Ziploc bag out of my backpack. Inside was quite a bit of plain leaf, and about 2 hits of some 10x extract. Having had such a good trip, and feeling a little disappointed it was winding down, I asked Alan if he wanted to embark. Of course he did, so we filled his bong with some leaf and 1 hit of 10x. We decided beforehand to go one at a time, just in case. Alan had done salvia several times before and really liked it. I'd only done it once, 60x, and it caused total amnesia from the first hit. I don't even fully remember the come-down. Not exactly pleasant. I was probably more apprehensive than Alan for that reason, which may have influenced my trip. We waited, but nothing much happened to him, so we smoked 2 more bowls of the leaf. Enter the insensible giggling I'd seen on salvia before. We both thought our visuals became more colorful, but still, nothing intense. I decided to wait a bit longer. Then suddenly, the mood of the room changed. It's hard to describe. The only way I can explain it is that salvia came into the room and was there with us. Not like a drug, but like an actual disembodied presence. I mentioned this to my friend, who thought it was cool. He still didn't feel anything remotely like his previous trips. I waited some more, and the presence began to subside. Not wanting to waste my chance, I packed a bowl of 10x and took it all in one hit. As I exhaled, I woke up in an unfamiliar reality. It happened so fast, I didn't know what to think. Titanic tidal forces stretched my body in all directions. I felt like I was being smeared over everything. Everything I saw became intensely colored. Not your regular dude. I'm tripping. So many colors kind, but the I'm about to go insane kind. The colors were so brilliant that nothing in the room seemed solid, but rather like it was in a hyperliquid. In this hyperliquid state, everything bled into everything else. I felt like my body was being pulled into the floor and dissolving into the air around me. This was quite disturbing. Only a few seconds in, the trip intensified to a crazy level. Everything took on this immense gravity. It felt like Alan's living room had fallen through an event horizon, and everything had taken on incredible mass. I felt like I was being crushed by the immense forces emanating from everything, almost as if I were in the presence of some vast being. Light became strange to perceive. It was as though I was moving just slightly slower than it, so time nearly stood still. To this day, I think I understand Einstein's ideas about space-time better, because in this state, time and space melted into an organic, breathing thing. I could feel out events happening anywhere in the universe. It was like every event sent out a pulse, and because of the hyperliquid nature of reality, these pulses were instantaneously transferred across existence. I looked at my friend in terror. All he said was, "What?" repeatedly, smiling. But to me, it seemed like he was confirming that this was, in fact, reality. I thought that him and all my friends and family existed on this level and had forever, while I had been stuck in the 3D world of delusion and had just realized what everyone else already knew. I've heard of salvia producing this effect before. It truly felt like I had woken up to realize my entire life had been a fabrication. This terrified me. Suddenly, a pocket in reality opened up, and my awareness divided between the me in Alan's living room and another me trapped in an immense geometric chamber shaped like a triangle. The room seemed infinite, eternity turning itself into architecture. The walls swirled with repeating patterns and strange extra dimensions. I can't say if that's even possible, but everything looked 5D. That's when I really started to panic. The alien geometry deeply unsettled me. I felt an overwhelming fear and desire to escape this triangle chamber, which I now saw as a prison. The problem was that it existed outside space and time. I remember calling out desperately to the me still in Alan's living room, but my voice couldn't cross the chasm between us. I truly believed I'd never leave, that I was trapped forever. I could barely remember who I was, let alone who that kid back on Earth had been. I was certain I'd lost not just my mind, but my soul, lost forever in that bizarre reality. Then I started focusing on the me inside the chamber instead of trying to return to my body. I began to experience the most intense feeling of knowledge, realizing that this chamber was the intersection of countless parallel realities, and that the person in the chamber was the intersection of all my parallel selves across the multiverse. I had, in an instant, become a conglomerate of parallel minds perceiving as one. At that point, I realized there was something I, or we, had to do, something essential, or we'd be trapped forever. I tried to navigate the chamber, but it was infinite, so there was no real progress to be made. Still, I, or we, ran and ran. And as we did, the swirling 5D patterns grew larger until they absorbed us. Suddenly, I understood why we had merged. But just as clarity dawned, I lost it. I became aware of my body again, and the strange pocket closed. Reality returned, but it moved in huge liquid waves, probably influenced by the music, which had become part of the same hyperliquid medium. As these waves passed through, I felt even deeper vibrations coming from somewhere far beyond. I panicked again, sensing an alien intelligence projecting its consciousness through these waves from deep within reality. There was a sinister feeling to it, though I think that was my ego's fear. I never encountered the being directly. I only felt its resonance through space-time. The waves condensed the liquid until parts of Alan's room seemed as dense as neutron stars. Then they hit me, and I felt my being become infinitely dense. I thought I was being crushed into a singularity, or dying, or both. Suddenly, Alan's room vanished, leaving infinite darkness and the wave dragging through me. As it passed, my body stretched into an endless string. Eventually, I became aware of other strings next to me. I was a guitar, an infinite guitar. Everything was infinite, yet somehow structured. I panicked, resisting whatever was happening. Then something struck the strings, and a chord rang out through the void. I realized I was the hand, the guitar, the strings, and the sound itself, but my conscious mind was localized on one string, either D or G, I think, which was full of fear and wouldn't vibrate in harmony with the others. The discordant tone was my doing. I knew I had to relax and let it happen. I wish I had. Maybe something profound would have happened. But I was terrified that if I let go, I'd lose my soul or free will. Very strange thoughts. Part of me regrets not surrendering, but another part is relieved. Perhaps some things shouldn't be known by a primitive human mind. Throughout this part of the trip, I had the impression of working through deep inner issues, though I can't recall what they were. Something that mildly frustrates me. Eventually, I left the guitar space and returned to the hyperliquid, which gradually solidified back into Alan's living room. A few seconds later, I stumbled back into reality, confused, drenched in sweat, and wide-eyed. Alan was still laughing and saying, "What?" My heart was racing. For a moment, I worried it might be a problem, but after lying down for a bit, it calmed. For 30 minutes, I could only say, "Holy shit, what the fuck? How? Oh my God, what the fuck?" over and over. When I finally spoke coherently and asked Alan what happened, he said I'd zoned out for 2 or 3 minutes, looking scared and grabbing my sides, which I, of course, didn't remember. I couldn't believe it. 2 or 3 minutes. If there's ever a next time, I'll bring a timer. In the end, I can't say it was a bad trip. Had I been prepared, it might have been more productive, and I could have gone with it more easily. It caught me completely off guard, which I think contributed to the fear. Who knows what would have happened if I had let go? It might remain a mystery for the rest of my life. I feel trepidation about trying such a powerful combo again. I may attempt it someday, but only when I'm sure I'm ready. It was definitely one of the most intense things that has ever happened to me. Coming down, I had the strong impression that even a few more minutes in that state might have broken my mind. This experience stretched me to my limits. I came away from it with a new respect for salvia, psychedelics, and reality itself. That night, I plumbed depths I may never reach again, which begs the question, do I even want to? I'm not sure I do. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be in that world, and that's why it felt so terrifying and alien. Still, I can't call it a bad trip, because I think I learned and perceived so much in those few minutes. Here are some things I noticed that align with many salvia reports. 1. Experiencing alien geometries. 2. feeling like I was being ripped apart. 3. Realizing my previous life had been an illusion and that everyone else knew, while the Salvia space was the only true reality. 4. Becoming an inanimate object, in my case, a guitar. 5. Experiencing feelings of immensity, gravity, infinity, and eternity. A few aspects were harder to find in other reports, mainly the all selves in all universes converging into one part, as well as the presence entering the room. I wonder if anyone else has experienced something similar. As for the multiple selves, I later theorized that maybe, at the moment I took that last hit, innumerable versions of me across the multiverse did too. Though in the end, I realize I don't really know anything. I don't know what would have happened had I not been on acid. It probably would have been less intense. I've concluded that Salvinorin A, THC, and LSD have incredible synergy. I can't tell how much one influenced the other. They just merged perfectly and catapulted me into realms beyond understanding. Definitely the strangest and most mind-blowing night of my life. I'll ponder it for the rest of my days. Note: at the time, I didn't play guitar or any instrument, so it's strange I hallucinated being a guitar so vividly. My intuition told me it might have been a hint from the universe or something. Several months after the experience, I started learning guitar, and less than a year later, I'm actually quite good. The better I get, the more emotionally stable and confident I feel, which relates to the trip. In it, I was the string that wouldn't play in harmony. Now, as I progress, I feel more in tune with myself, and my anxieties fade through music. Before that trip, I'd never been interested in the guitar at all. So I guess it was an extremely productive trip, one that pushed me toward growth. Or maybe I'm just insane. Either way, thanks for being patient with such a long report. Thank you for tuning in to this report. If you enjoyed what you listened to, feel free to like the video or subscribe to keep up to date and in the community.